All right, guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co host, Jake Ellenbogen, and we are coming to you after a Week 18 Rams loss to our division rival, the Seattle Seahawks, 25 to 30. As we all know, the Rams already locked up a playoff spot, so they opted to play their backups on offense against the Seahawks, and it wasn't enough to come away with the W. So therefore, we're going to talk a little bit about that. But Jake, as we also will talk about, our loss to the Seahawks basically solidified our matchup against the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs. We were going to play whoever lost the Sunday night football game between the Lions and the Vikings. Lions win, so we're going to take on the Vikings at SoFi Stadium. Jake, before we get into that, we should talk a little bit about what we saw during the game against the Seahawks, because, some interesting things happened. We got to see some guys who we don't normally get to see a lot of kind of have their time to shine. What were your thoughts on the Rams' performance against the Seahawks?
Yeah, I was really impressed with what we saw. I thought Garoppolo kind of solidified his role. If they want to bring him back next year as a backup, I think that he would definitely come back, and I think the Rams would definitely want him back. Saw a guy that operated with 20 pressures against him in this game. I thought he did a really nice job, kind of manipulating the pocket. You definitely saw just his, ability in play action. And keep in mind, he's doing this. Blake Corum goes down very early on in the game, doing it with Ronnie Rivers, who hasn't played since week 2, I believe. And I was really impressed. I mean, I thought Rivers played really well as well, especially in pass protection. I think that's really going to benefit them in the postseason. But just watching Garoppolo and just the way Mike LaFleur called this game. Now, I have to bring it up, and I brought it up pretty much the last 3 times I have made content. But in case anybody didn't notice, that Sean McVay timeout when they, lined up, Ethan Evans is out there, it's 4th and 1. That to me was huge. That was the turning point, I think, for Mike LaFleur. That was when the training wheels came off. It's like, all right, you are an offensive coordinator in the NFL that has called games before. Okay, go for this thing. That was what the timeout was for. Sends him out there. They go for it. And after that, I think you just saw just kind of this unraveling in a good way. A chaotic offense that, was, while they were chaotic and they had some explosives and what have you, they were also, really even keel. Jimmy Garoppolo was never too high, too low. He had a really bad pass, the interception, then he had the missed throw on the last play of the game. But I thought Garoppolo really suffered from the drops. I think he played really well. I mean, 330 plus yards, not what anybody was expecting him to do in this one. Jordan Whittington, bottom line, needs to be out there way more. He looks so good. I mean, I would go as far as to say, when I watch Jordan Whittington, maybe it's the number. I think a CD Lamb. That's how I feel about Jordan Whittington right now. I think he is going to go for 1,000 yards as early as next year if they let him cook. And they need to let him cook in the playoffs because I think they need to get him going. He has that explosive ability. This team isn't generating a ton of explosives. So that's kind of how I see that. Tutu Atwell, he had some drops in this one, very uncharacteristic. He did have the most receptions, finished the season with the most receptions of his career. So shout out to him. Demarcus Robinson, you got him going after a 4-week dry spell, 5 targets, 0 catches. He got going in this one, had a good rapport with Garoppolo. Tyler Johnson did some good things, obviously the touchdown. Tyler Higbee, okay, a huge takeaway. Tyler Higbee has not lost a step. I know some people were worried about that devastating injury. He looks exactly like Tyler Higbee. I would say he looks a little bit better than Tyler Higbee in 2023. I just think he looks more explosive. Maybe it's just me. I don't know, but I was really impressed with him. He found the end zone. And the offensive line was not great, but they're going up against the starters. What I will say, that right side was great, okay? This is why when people complained about Nopum playing right tackle and people like you and I, Warren McClendon Jr. was stellar, absolutely stellar on Sunday. He was their best offensive lineman. And Jonah Jackson had some really good tape at right guard. Obviously, we know Jonah Jackson can play. He just doesn't have an opportunity because they have their starting five. But that is a really good feeling when you see your right tackle play at that level against some tough competition here in Seattle. And, he only gives up, I believe, one pressure, no sacks. And, this is big because Havenstein, we know, is going to play. That's been made clear. He's going to play for the Vikings game. But you still have to worry. I mean, this is a guy that's had some injuries this year. Okay. And if he comes out and he's not 100%, or God forbid he re-aggravates his injury, I need to know that my next man up isn't going to kill me. And right now, the way Warren McClendon played, this past Sunday, I feel good about it. So, that's kind of the offense encapsulated. But Alexis, I felt really good about the way they played.
I did too. I really liked what I saw. I'd say my biggest complaint about the offense is I wanted Blake Corum to be used more. Especially like that first quarter. I think we all kind of wanted to see him utilized a little bit more. I thought this was going to be the week that my Blake Corum anytime touchdown paid off. I basically went 0 for like 6 or 7 on that because I'd bet that quite a bit. So if anybody listened to me about that bet, I apologize, but I think everybody thought that this would have been the week. But yeah, other than that, I thought that the play calling was pretty good on offense. I really liked what I saw from Jordan Whittington. I was surprised they kept him in as long as they did. I'm very like I don't know. I'm very superstitious about injuries. I didn't even like that we had some defensive starters out there. The whole game, like I would have sooner lost 50-0 if it just meant that, you took all the starters out. Thankfully, none of our starters got injured, but Blake Corum ended up breaking his arm. He's out now for the season. Didn't like that. Obviously, don't like an injury at all, but he's the main backup to Kyron Williams. So, I had a lot of people messaging me about, what are we going to do now? But I will say, Ronnie Rivers, and you and I talked about this, Ronnie Rivers looked really good for a guy who basically hasn't played football until this week. He's not getting snaps in games. Kyron obviously is getting, 85%, 90% of snaps at running back. And then when he's not getting those, it's been Blake Corum. So Ronnie Rivers hasn't really played in a professional football game in 18 weeks. And I thought he looked good, all things considered. I know that you had some thoughts about this, as well, but it is a really big bummer, for Blake to get injured. I'd say the good news is, he's a rookie. He will bounce back. This is just a very minor setback, just at a terrible time. And ironically, it's very similar to Kyron Williams' story, right? He gets injured on a freak play his rookie season, as well. But I was, like a little bit relieved when I saw how well Ronnie Rivers was running. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, this guy hasn't had a carry since the Chicago game, from what I'm seeing here. He had 2 carries against the Lions. I had to look it up because I was like, when is the last time he had a carry? 2 carries against the Lions. He had a catch for no yards against Arizona. He had 2 carries for 9 against the Niners, and he had 6 carries for 26 against the Bears. Did not play until this game. I thought he looked superb in pass protection, which I think is kind of a reminder there's more to this position than just getting the rock and running, right? So that's how I feel there. But, essentially looking at it, and I understand some people won't like this. I think Ronnie Rivers gives the Rams a better chance to win than Blake Corum does right now in their, respective careers. I mean, it's really unfortunate. You hate it. You hate injuries. I feel bad for Blake. But I also feel like, look, we can't have it both ways. You can't be really excited for Omar Speights to get his opportunity at the expense of Troy Reeder and, not understand that, look, like Ronnie Rivers can add some things that maybe right now in this, this stage of his career, Blake Corum can't. So that's kind of how I see it right now. I think Rivers really can add something to this offense out of the passing game, which is something Blake can do, but it's really the pass protection that we saw, the blitz pickups were evident. It was clear as day, that he was having, he was definitely having, some success there. And that's a big deal because when Kyren Williams comes off the field, the biggest issue that people have is when he comes off the field, who is going to pass protect, right? And it kind of forces you into a box. Like, you can only do it however you're going to do it. And so I think that does matter. And, I think that was a big deal to get him going. And, we'll see what ends up happening. To your thing, because people were asking me, hey, what are we doing at running back? I do have a list. Shocker. I don't think it actually will amount to much. I think that they'll probably go with what they have. And then I think we'll probably see, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think they're going to use Jordan Whittington kind of in that role. But my list was essentially, I think Zeke Elliott is at the top of that list, who was just cut by the Cowboys. Veteran presence. They saw him in the playoffs, obviously, in 2018. Ezekiel Elliott can't really play much anymore at the level he used to. Could be a red zone guy, but Kyren Williams is so much better than everybody else in the red zone that's not really a big deal. So really, what does Elliott bring? It's that pass protection ability. He's still a good pass protector. And so if you're looking for one more guy on this roster, and I'm still not even convinced they're going to do it because they were trying to make room for Troy Reader and John Johnson. If they do bring in somebody, I think Elliott would make sense. I also think Darrell Henderson. I think Malcolm Brown. These are guys that have, familiarity with the Rams. I think they'd be on speed dial. I know some people, before you ask, know Zach Evans is not available. Evans is on the Jets practice squad. Boston Scott, who spent time with the Rams, and a lot of people felt like he would make the team. He is currently available, so keep an eye on him. Matt Breida, who worked with Mike LaFleur in San Francisco, he's available. There's one guy, however, that the Rams, there's two guys, but John Kelly re-upped with the Browns. There's one guy that is available that is a big name, former 1,000-yard rusher, that actually met and worked out for the Rams. And this was recently. This was early December. And that's James Robinson from the Jaguars, right? Everyone remembers what he did with the Jaguars and then kind of fell off with the injuries, was last seen with the Giants, I believe, last year. James Robinson not tried out, but he worked out for this team early December. So that tells me that Robinson definitely has a shot to be the guy if they decide to. But I actually would be totally fine with them rolling with what they have. Kyren Williams, then you got Ronnie Rivers, then you got, I think Cody Schrader is a fine player, can help you in the passing game. But then you have Jordan Whittington, he was a former running back who you could use there. If you're worried about Whittington's durability and you don't want to run him into the ground, then I could absolutely see them going with James Robinson. And to be honest with you, if they go with anybody, I think it will be Robinson. I know some people think it's going to be, Darrell Henderson or Malcolm Brown. Those are just, me throwing out there for familiarity factor. But I think James Robinson, most notably and most recently, meeting with this team and working out for this team, I think that would be the guy that they would go with. But also, we have no idea how the workout went down, Alexis. I mean, he could have failed the workout miserably. All we know is that it was reported that he worked out for the Rams. So, that's that.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. I think that they're probably going to stick with what they have because their game plan doesn't. I don't think it really changes with the Corum injury. I think Kyren was going to get 90% of reps anyways, right? So then you're looking at someone to give him, a breather. And I think that if, Ronnie Rivers, I think he has that capability. I do think Zeke Elliott is interesting because of the pass protection, right? I mean, especially at times when the offensive line has gotten shaky. I mean, part of the reason you have Kyren Williams in there so long is because he does so many reps in pass protection that it would be a little bit intriguing if the Rams wanted to bring in Zeke Elliott for that purpose. But even if they brought him in, I don't think that changes how much they run the ball with Kyren. But Zeke would be interesting as he grew up a Rams fan, as most people know. from St. Louis. He also grew up idolizing Steven Jackson and going to the games and kind of modeling his game after him. So that could be fun if they really wanted to just find somebody to throw in there every once in a while, help protect Stafford. But I don't think that they'll do it. I think that they'll just stick with Kyron and Ronnie stepping in if they want to give Kyron some time off. But I don't think they sign anybody.
Yeah, I don't think they signed anybody either. I will say, to put it into perspective, Ezekiel Elliott as a runner would be like when the Patriots had Steven Jackson, or the Patriots had Steven Jackson. So that was at the very, very end of his career. Obviously wasn't the same guy. So it wouldn't be somebody that could come in and just do a bunch of things that he used to do. I mean, he had 642 rushing yards last year. This year he only had 226 in 15 games. He really is just not the same player, averaging 3.1 yards per carry, 3.5 the following year. He is on the decline. Running back is about to hit 30 years old. It's sad. You hate to see it. I definitely don't like watching these guys go downhill, but this is the way sports is. Father Time is undefeated. Unfortunately, Elliott, playing with injuries. I mean, he's never had a significant injury, but playing through injury, it'll do that. It'll wear you down. The way he ran wore him down. And so there's people saying bring back SJ39. I don't think so. I don't think that would be in the cards. But yeah, I think that James Robinson, or they just don't get it done. And I would lean towards they don't get anything done. You can always add somebody later on, but I just don't think they're not in that headspace. They'll figure it out, and they don't want to even think about that. Like, if it's Kyron Williams, Ronnie Rivers, and Cody Schrader, most teams keep 3 running backs anyway. Maybe they add somebody to their practice squad just in case, but at the same time, I don't even think they're eligible. I don't think you can use the practice squad in the postseason. I could be wrong, but I don't think you can. So, yeah, Cam Akers is playing against the Rams, D-Tex, so he wouldn't be an option.
I wish that we would have seen more Cody Schrader against the Seahawks.
I agree.
Because I feel like it wasn't, he had one carry, we weren't able to see what he could do at all. And I felt like, but again, I think it was kind of like they had their plan going into the game with Corum, and then he ends up getting hurt, and then they just, I think, kind of, I don't know if they panicked, but they just, Ronnie Rivers the rest of the way. And they also didn't call any running plays when Corum was in either. We talked about that earlier, which was frustrating. They got a little pass happy. So it wasn't the best game if for people who wanted to see kind of what our other running backs could do, unfortunately. But yeah, again, I don't know that it matters so much, because I think the game plan is going to be what it's been all season. When they go to the playoffs, it's going to be feed Kyron, right? And then when you need to obviously give him some time to breathe, they'll probably just throw Ronnie Rivers in there. And
it was definitely the pass protection, I think, because the way they were getting beat inside, keep in mind, I mean, no disrespect, Dylan McMahon has not played all year long, and he gave up 6 pressures. And Avila was really struggling in pass protection next to him. So when you had all that pressure coming up front, well, now I need a running back that can withstand that. I need a guy that can come up and have a blitz pickup. I need a guy that can work in pass protection. And I think that's just what ended up happening. The way the game went down, they wanted to get Schrader the ball. You could tell. They threw him in the game. They immediately ran the ball with him. He got 2 yards, and then they threw it to him. But it just felt like it wasn't in the cards, because they were, regardless of what anyone says, and I can't stand this whole the Rams weren't trying to win this game. That's just not true. The Rams absolutely were trying to win this game. It's why they started a lot of their starters on defense. They still started guys on offense. They wanted to win this game. They just prioritized sitting the players that are key and critical to how far they're going to go in the postseason. Because, I said it on my live stream after the game. You say what you will. If you're, complaining about them not, resting their starters or resting whatever, Blake Corum got hurt in this game. Christian Watson just tore his ACL. Zay Flowers has an LCL injury, right? This is what happens. So after we saw a week of injuries left and right, I mean, what was it on the Lions? We saw Terrion Arnold go down. It's a reminder that, Aaron Jones, like there's always a reminder there, why you do something the way you do it. And yeah, okay, if the Rams have their starters, I think they clearly beat Seattle. I guess I'll ask you this. I didn't care who the Rams played. I think they can beat anybody, including anybody in the AFC. Did you care who the Rams played? Because, I didn't at all.
I wasn't adamant about it. I will say that when it came down to the Sunday night, when we learned that obviously we were going to play whoever lost Sunday Night Football, I wanted to play the Vikings over the Lions. I will say that. I did not want to play the Lions first round. I just, and that's, I'm not saying that I didn't think we couldn't beat them. I thought they were going to be tougher than the Vikings. We've played the Vikings this season. We beat them this season on prime time. I think that the Lions are a lot better team than the Vikings. So, while I do think anything can happen and anybody can beat anybody in the NFL playoffs, if I was a betting person, I'd rather play the Vikings over the Lions. So, yes, I guess that my answer is yes. I was hoping that we would end up playing the Vikings. And we are. But that's not to say that they're not a good football team, because they are a very good football team. As somebody just pointed out in the chat, they are favored over the Rams to win next Monday night, which, by the way, I know a lot of people are angry about the Monday night game. I am ecstatic because I was not going to be able to watch if they played on Saturday. So I was very much hoping that the Rams played Sunday or Monday, and thankfully we got the Monday night football game. But I do know a lot of people don't like that slot, but I'm sorry, guys. I just have to say I'm happy about it because that means I can watch. I've got no conflicts. So, yeah, I don't know. Were you pulling for anybody specific? I mean, we kind of talked about it the last episode that we recorded, but things changed. So were you, hoping to play a
I was
specific team?
pulling for more so the Rams would play on Sunday and not Saturday than I was any team in particular, because I wanted to watch UFC on Saturday. And if they had played Saturday night, I'm like, the Rams are going to take precedence. So I would prefer to enjoy both, both the live sports and everything. And Monday night, I have issues with, I think from a competition standpoint, I think it's BS. So not only do you get a bye as a first rounder, but then you get an additional game on additional day on a lot of these teams. I mean, whoever you play between those two, if you are the Lions. But if you aren't the Lions, think about this, because it's very simple. The Rams play the Lions if everything goes according to plan. And what I mean by according to plan is when you're, charting out a bracket and you advance all the best seeds, that's according to plan. That's how it's supposed to be. The underdog isn't supposed to win. So when the Rams are the 4 seed going against the 5 seed, they are supposed to beat the 5 seed. When the 3 seed is playing the 6 seed, they're supposed to beat the 6 seed. And of course, the 2 seed is supposed to beat the 7 seed. Well, if anything, goes different here, right? So say the Rams win, but the Commanders actually win on Sunday, and the Rams will know. That's the benefit there, I guess, to an extent, is that we all get to know who the Rams would face if they win that game against the Vikings on Monday. But be that as it may, the Rams basically will know, and the Commanders, if they beat the Bucks, that means that the Rams would go to Philly if they win, and the Commanders would go to Detroit. And it's so weird because I had this idea in my head: no open air, get me in a dome, even if it is Ford Field. And then I had Andrew Whitworth on this channel, and he talked me into the idea that the Rams are built for that Eagles game. They're built. They don't have that old school, they don't have a Gray Show on Turf style offense. They don't have a lot of explosives. They don't have a Jahmyr Gibbs. They don't have a Saquon Barkley. So playing on turf, there's not really a benefit there, for them. They don't have any guys that are like wicked explosive that could really benefit playing on turf, like some of these other guys where you'd rather play a Jahmyr Gibbs or a Saquon Barkley on grass than you would on turf, right? It makes sense. It slows them down just a little bit, but still enough to slow them down. The Rams are kind of this grinded out football team since the Bills game. We saw that barn burner against Buffalo. They have not played that style of game since. They've played these grinded out, Kyra Williams totes the rock 29 times back-to-back games, like that type of style of football. They played in the cold, and I think that Jets game, they learned a lot in, and they can add that and they can push that into the Eagles game. So I'm kind of with Witt on this one. If I were to choose, I think I'd rather go to Philly than go to Detroit. And then you play Detroit in the NFC title game, or you don't. And, in that scenario, if Washington beat Detroit, then you would host the NFC title game. It's that simple. So either way, we know that the Rams are going to play at least 2 14-win teams. The question is, are they going to play a 15-win and a 14-win or 2 14 wins? If they win, of course. They have to advance, but if they do advance, they're going to be playing a really good team regardless.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, and we're going to do another episode closer to the game because, at the time of this recording, it's Monday night and we play. So we literally are a week away, and in the NFL, a lot can happen in a week. So, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but just kind of briefly, touching on this matchup against the Vikings. Like we mentioned earlier, we've played the Vikings already this season. We played them on Thursday Night Football. We played them on prime time. I was at a wedding rehearsal, as everybody knows, so I kind of had an unusual experience watching that game where I was having to like sneak watch it on my phone, at a dinner table. But I did watch it, and you watched it, and everyone watching our channel watched it as well. We won 30.
I was sick, remember? I did the watch party sick.
You were sick. I was sick that I couldn't watch the game.
I see what you did there.
See what I did there? But we won 30-20. We won 30-20 in prime time on Thursday Night Football, which was really nice because the Rams kind of have this habit on primetime football the past few years of embarrassing me when the world is watching. They've had a couple games like that this season. Talk about the Philadelphia Eagles game, our team. But, we've beat this team. That's what I'm trying to say. We've beat this team. We beat them, the score of 30-20, I felt like it could have been a lot worse. We pretty much dominated the Vikings, when we played them, 30-20.
After the first 2 drives, yeah.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse. And so obviously, that doesn't mean that we're automatically slated to win again if we play against them, but we've proved to ourselves that we can, right? Sean McVay has proved that he can outcoach Kevin McConnell this season, which we've seen it. And
Brian Flores.
Right. So, as a Rams fan on a surface level, we should feel good going into this game. But Jake, what do you think, if anything, has changed between that Thursday Night Football game and now for both teams that might flip the script a little bit? What is something the Rams should look out for now that they're going to play the Vikings again?
Well, I mean, you got to look out for now. You see, very interesting. Again, Witt brought this up earlier. Sam Darnold was really good against the blitz, right? The stats indicate that he was really good against the blitz. But what we realized when the Lions really blitzed him is that his numbers against the blitz were just, let's be honest here, he didn't see the blitz as much as you would think. So the Lions really tested him and blitzed the hell out of him last night. And this is somebody that really just kind of crumbled in the moment. I don't think he had a ton of help from those wide receivers. Justin Jefferson should have held on to a few of those. I think obviously he stopped running on the touchdown. There were issues, right? But when you start getting a quarterback in, very uncomfortable and you get him throwing off his back foot and have him running for his life off platform. I mean, Josh Allen can make that, but that's not always the best thing. That's not always the operation you want to go with. And so I just look at this Rams team they can get after the quarterback without sending, but now they are blitzing and they're being effective. You saw Akello Witherspoon's Mutombo act, batting the pass away. You've seen Quentin Lake blitz. You've seen Cam Curl, obviously, against Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. That was huge. But the blitzing has worked out, since the bye week for the Rams. And I just think that, what we learned and kind of the different thing here is that Sam Darnold does struggle against it. And if you're getting pressure and you're just going to play man defense, it's going to be hard. It is really going to be hard for Sam Darnold to make plays. I do expect this team to try and take advantage of the Rams, because if they do play in that man coverage, then, if they're able to get through, with Cam Akers and that explosion, or, Aaron Jones, they can obviously get some yards out of that and some chunks at that and keep drives alive. I'm really curious if Kevin O'Connell is going to try to protect Sam Darnold from himself. That's what I'm curious about. Because if Sam Darnold plays like he did against the Rams and he throws a decent amount, he wasn't he was great on the first 2 drives that were scripted. He struggled, but he wasn't catastrophic like last night. He didn't throw an interception, and honestly, he might as well have. Last night was catastrophically bad. They had every opportunity to be in that game, and they had 3 red zone trips in which they got no touchdowns. I just feel like the way the Rams are playing against the run right now, and how everybody on that secondary, regardless if you realize it or not, can play in man coverage, including Emmanuel Forbes, who, by the way, killed it in man coverage against DK Metcalf. I think he could be an absolute weapon. If you want to deploy him on third downs, obvious passing downs, deep passing downs, you don't have to have him make a tackle, because we saw him trying to make a tackle. He's, a willing tackler, but he just doesn't have the mass where he kind of just bounces off guys, right? But if you play him to his strength and you use him on those third and obvious situations where it's third and long and they're going deep down the field, well, the fluidity in his hips, I mean, he could easily, be asked to just shut somebody down on a play, and he could do that. He had some really good reps on Sunday. I was really impressed with Forbes. So that's how I would utilize him. But Alexis, this game plan has to be very similar to the 49ers. Obviously, you got to score more points than you did against the Niners. What was it, 12-6? That's not going to cut it. But the thing that they did against the 49ers is that they forced Brock Purdy, who just absolutely destroys zone defense and will just always find the open man. They forced him to try and make pinpoint accurate throws in man coverage. And oh, by the way, while you're trying to do that, which you still didn't want to do and you were very reluctant to do that, we're also going to have Jared Verse and Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk and Byron Young all over you the whole game. So I think it's going to be similar to that. I would worry, there is the potential Kevin O'Connell, kind of moves away from the passing game. And if the Rams can't stop the run game, then you kind of reactivate Sam Darnold. It's almost kind of like a trap card, because if you start giving up the run, then the play action is going to be more effective. You get Sam Darnold going the play action, then you get his confidence up. If you can do that, you can kind of right this ship. But right now, I understand, the playoffs started, clean slate. There is some sort of momentum drop here. You can't tell me there's not. The Vikings went into this game expecting to win. There's no way they didn't expect to win. All those injuries the Lions are playing with, they beat, the Lions earlier. They were expecting to win this game. And the reality is that they didn't get it done. And, not only did they not get it done, 31-9. So it's just not acceptable to do that. And they gave up 4 touchdowns to the same running back in Gibbs. And, that's that. And by the way, they didn't beat the Lions. I'm sorry. I meant to say that they lost in the final seconds to the Lions, 31-29. And, I think kind of coming from that game, you have to feel like, okay, revenge angle. We almost beat them, all that. We know we're capable of it. And they were in this game. They should have taken the points. They should have kicked the field goals on the road. But then you look at it and it's like, man, the Lions just ran away with this game and it got ugly. And I started thinking, and maybe I'm not onto something, maybe I am, but when it became more and more obvious that the Vikings were who the Rams were going to play, I started really rooting for the Vikings to kind of fall off, because I felt like in this scenario, the worse this gets, the more down the Vikings are going to get. And I think while it's obvious this is a clean slate, you move on, that stuff still lingers. They still played that game with starters. Those starters are playing the following week. Now they have to be on the road. They had it all right in front of them. If they win this game, number 1 seed, the road to the Super Bowl runs through Minnesota, and you feel good about that. Well, they lost that, and now they don't even get a playoff game winning 14 games. So I just think right now the momentum is definitely not looking good right now for the Vikings. And I think with the Rams, even though they lost this game, I mean, you saw how happy those starters were that, sat like a Kupp, like a Stafford, Puka, Kyron, how happy they were, for their teammates. I mean, this was a game that they absolutely dominated in the second half. They should have won. I wish Vinovich knew what an offsides was, because Keir Thomas wasn't offsides, and that would have affected the end of the game. That's neither here nor there, because they did have a chance at the end to win it and they didn't. But at the same time, I don't think your momentum gets dinged in that one, because that was really like, to have them go toe to toe with the Seahawks, who clearly were going after this thing. They wanted 10 wins for their coach. They wanted to be able to say that they tied the Rams, in the division and, whatever. But I'll tell you, I mean, I just think the vibe of this team, the way they played this out, I think it really can benefit you. Even when you have backups in there and you're playing at that level, it just tells me that organizationally, in the locker room, the coaching staff, all of that, they have their ducks in a row. And people are excited right now in that Rams building. I mean, you saw Josh Carty saying, look, we're not afraid of anybody. We're excited. No one picked us, whatever. Sean McVay saying we respect everyone but fear no one. Yeah, I mean, that's a dangerous team right there. And they found multiple ways to win, whether it was ugly, whether it was having to drop 44 against the Buffalo Bills. They've won in multiple different ways this year.
Aren't you glad that we never gave up on Joshua Carty?
I can't believe some of these people. I mean, really? Like, are you kidding me? You look and you're like, he missed 5 field goals all year, and people are like tearing him down. And I mean, you remember my rant on here. Ugh.
I love how I said that, just like that's the tea. This isn't even tea, but this was my treat to myself. I've been chatting with the chat, all 800 of you that are in here right now. I've been manning the chat this episode, and I told them what I told you, Jake, earlier, how I'm just super under the weather. So I got myself that just absolutely terrible for you sugar drink right there that I'm sipping on. Just bring me back to life a little bit.
Understandable.
But yeah, it was just so, it was sad. It was funny but sad to see throughout the season people give up on a rookie kicker, and who really has never done anything. I felt like that was worthy to give up on him. I know he had a couple games with some missed kicks, but I mean, he has looked really good the past few games, and I think he's only going to get better. I think he's working out the kinks, and he is going to be pretty good for a long time if he keeps this up. So yeah, I just wanted to shout that out.
That was huge to get him going from the left hash too, by the way.
Yeah. And his confidence too, obviously, not just getting the points on the board, but as a player to get your confidence up and
absolutely
shut people up who are being dramatic on the internet. I'm sure he doesn't see that, but just,
I know, but still, I mean, why would you even, if there's any chance of my kicker seeing negativity and having any sort of chance of that affecting his mental state, why would I put that out there? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I thought that was, a good storyline. Relatively all in all, I felt, even though the Rams lost, I think things went well for them. I mean, bummer about Blake Corum. We talked about that earlier. That I think was probably the biggest other than getting, the technical loss, right? I mean, losing Blake Corum for the season. But Jake, you know what? I would encourage everybody to not do to Blake Corum what they did to Kyron Williams. Let's not label him injury prone because he got an injury his rookie season, because that happened to Kyron Williams and people jumped ship on him. So I better not see that when people talk about Blake Corum.
I know.
His arm is going to heal. He's going to be fine, and we wish him the best. But it is really a bummer. Like week 18 is just
They call
horrible.
him Joshua Mario Cardi. I've never
They're
heard that.
they're giving Joshua. They're trying to find a nickname for him.
I mean, I kind of like
I like.
Cardi B, but
I mean, I like Playboy Cardi because
I
that's
mean,
after there's a rapper.
I don't know
So
who that
you're
is.
okay. So
That's why I was like Cardi B. I mean, I don't
there's a
know pop
rapper.
culture, but
So there's a rapper, Playboy Cardi, but he spells it differently. So if you say Playboy Cardi but spell it Cardi,
mm,
it's the same. But that one probably won't, I guess, catch on. I think Cardi Party is what I see. Um,
Killa Cardi. I kind of like
yeah,
that.
somebody just dropped in the chat. Yeah, Playboy Cardi, but you would spell it differently. So like Cardi B
Yeah,
doesn't make sense because there's no like his first name starts with a J.
it's just Cardi B. You know what doesn't make sense? J.K. Bogan. I don't know why it's J.K. Bogan. I'm J.E., right? J.A., right? So Jake starts with an A, not a K. Nothing starts with a J.K. That's not even English. I
I've
just thought of
never
it.
put that together. You're right.
It's like J.K. Bogan. What
Well,
what
you're
the hell does that mean?
abbreviating because you're abbreviating Jake and then you're abbreviating Ellen Bogan. So you're taking the A and the E out of Jake and you're taking the Ellen out of Bogan.
Okay,
So
so you do
you're
see the vision, but I don't even remember how I came up with it. I just did, and it just like worked.
I
I
hate my
assumed
Twitter.
your middle
I
name
hate
started with the K. Yeah, it doesn't. My middle name, is actually, believe it or not, my initial spelled Joe. My middle name is Oliver. So literally K means no, like it just makes no sense. But I like it. I don't remember when I did it. And the K is silent. Yeah, J Bogan. Silent
I
K.
mean, I hate I've said this a lot. I do not like my Twitter username. The Alexis Craft just sounds embarrassing, but you know what? I made my Twitter when
It's
I was
really not.
I mean, it's just the okay, pretentious. But what happened is when I made my Twitter, I was 15 and the username Alexis Craft was taken and I was a big Cody Simpson fan and
Mm.
his Twitter was the Cody Simpson. So I was like, all right, that makes sense. I'll just put the Alexis Craft so I still have my name in there. And then what ended up happening is Rams fans started to follow me, and so it was like my real name was out there. I've said before, if I could do it again, I would not probably have my real name on anything, but it ended up happening that way. So yeah, my actual name is Alexis Craft. I don't get to hide behind any false identity. So there's that. Someone in the chat just asked me how old I am. I am 28, which apparently nobody thinks that because every time I say that, everybody's like, "You're 28." I
Everyone's
thought
like,
you were
what?
23. And I'm like, I wish. Um,
Yeah.
yep. Nope.
I
That's
don't
how
even
I got my Twitter
remember.
name.
Yeah, my Twitter name I think was Jake. It was Jake Bogan, I think. Jake Bogan. I don't remember.
Mine
Is
hasn't
that crazy?
changed.
I don't even. Jake
I mean,
Bogan, I think it was.
Jake is 29. Somebody that just asked how old you are. You're a year older than me.
Yes, I'll be 30 this year. No comment at this time.
I kind of like feel like at this point, it's like I just be 30. Like 28,
I
it's
know.
like 28, 29. It's like let's just like be 30.
It's like as soon as
You
you hit
know,
30, like this is what's going to happen. Just because of all the negative connotation about being 30 years old. Like as soon as I hit 30, I'm going to feel in my knees, my back, everything. And it's not even going to be real. It's all just going to be this placebo thing because everybody said that like 30s so evil and bad and it's the end of your life. But yeah, it's if I was a running back, I'd be hitting a wall.
I just have always felt like I'm going to hit my peak in my 30s. So I'm not scared of it. I mean, I'm scared of it from like what society and the world falsely labels your 30s, but I've always just felt like I'm going to actually be in my stride at 30, which is, I think, a good place to be. Like, you don't want to be in your stride in high school. Like, people who peak in high school, you don't want to be that person. You just don't.
Yeah,
I think like, for me, my 20s, I'm figuring it out. My 30s, I'm going to get there and I'm going to like hit my stride. That's what I tell
definitely haven't,
myself.
definitely didn't peak in high school. I can tell you that much. It's
Neither did
just
I.
no chance. Okay, so we're probably gonna wrap this up because when we start talking about like peaking in high school and like our old Twitter like ats, that's how you know it's time to
Well,
cut it
somebody
off.
asked.
Cut them off.
Yeah.
You guys are still puppies. I don't think I've ever been called a puppy before. That
No,
is
I
fascinating.
have.
Well, now I have officially.
Well,
13, 14, 42, 33. Wow. All right, three. No, I'm not buying
I
that.
will
Nope.
say, well, it is nice. I will say from, interacting with like the listeners who listen to our show, and I don't, when I say interacting, I should say seeing messages because I will admit if people who are like under 18 message me, I will not respond. Just not, I appreciate the support, but I'm not going to. But there is like a wide range of people, like age groups that listen to our show, which I think is just really cool that
Yeah, it's
everybody
cool.
can enjoy and listen. Because, I'll tell you, like, when I do improv or something, right, or I'm on stage performing, like, that is not for all ages. That there are certain age groups, and there are age groups too young, and I also sometimes too old, right, that like will not
Yeah.
understand what's like some of the references. So it is nice to be able to do a show that everybody can enjoy and we're all on the same page. Thank you so much for the super chat that's on the
Thank you,
screen right
Johan.
now. Thank you.
Let's
Yep, let's
beat
beat
the
the Vikings.
Vikes and show that we're contenders. Yeah. I better not hear a skull chant at SoFi. This
Oh
is all up
God.
to you guys. I won't be there, so this is up to you. HAV, thank you for the super chat. Shout out Jake for the big wit appearance. Appreciate you, man.
Yep. Shout
Brian
out.
Beadle, thank you for the 5. You guys are awesome. It's too bad we couldn't pull out a win yesterday, although it was a great experience. Love our chances Monday night. Yeah, I
I
really
will
can't
say,
stress it enough. I understand. Maybe I shouldn't even be as confident as I am. I'm not saying they're going to blow out the Vikings, but I really do feel good about this game. They're going to have
I do too.
John Hussey, excuse me, as the official. So they dodged the dreaded Craig Rolstad bit. John Hussey, the Rams are 7-4 in games that he's officiated. The Rams are the least penalized team in the NFL. The Rams, actually, Alexis, I don't know if you saw this. This is going to bode well for them in the postseason. Okay, think about this. You got Stafford, who's got all sorts of experience, fourth quarter comeback, game-winning drive king. You got Kyron Williams, who can take on a big workload, just got a huge week of rest. And he could take on a big workload. He can play that ground and pound and, can pretty much get any first down, any short yardage. He can manage that, right? Goal line. He's got a nose for the end zone. Great stuff. Then you got Puka Nacua, your superstar. You got Cooper Kupp. If he can hold out, I know he's kind of not the same receiver, but if he can get going now that we're in the postseason, that would be nice. You got explosive Jordan Whittington. Hopefully he gets more opportunities. You got Demarcus Robinson, who's got 7 touchdowns this season. You got Tutu Atwell, your deep threat. You got Tyler Johnson, who could make plays after the catch. You got Tyler Higbee, who looks like he hasn't lost a step and could be a huge weapon at tight end. You got a fully healthy offensive line, knock on wood, that better stay the case. Then you have on the defense the number one pressure rate defense up front. You got a secondary that is playing lights out. You got a defense that now has their linebackers, and Omar Spates and Christian Roseboom. The safeties are playing well. I just think there's a lot to feel good about when it comes to the Rams. Fourth down, they're the best, second best defense. They're the best fourth down defense in the second half of the season of anybody in the playoffs, and they're the best fourth down offense in the second half of the season. So when a team has to, push comes to shove, a team has to go for it on fourth down, the Rams are the best. They have over an 81% success rate. And, when a team goes for it on fourth down against the Rams, well, they've done a really nice job in the second half of the season to shut them down. And that's huge. That might not be huge against the Vikings this week, but if they move on to, say, the Lions, that would be pretty damn big, because the Lions, how many times they go for it on fourth down? It feels like at least 3 times a game, maybe 4. So yeah, those are just some thoughts that I have. Obviously, I trust the coaching staff. I trust McVay. Oh, you can't forget about the fact that Ethan Evans is a weapon. His leg is insane. They have Jordan Whittington, who's a kick return weapon. They got some guys on special teams. Xavier Smith, he is lightning in a bottle. When he gets going, he could really make you pay. But he's also a great gunner on special teams. And last but certainly not least on special teams, you got Josh Carty, who's been lights out as of late. And I'll tell you, they got him going at the right time. You're only as good as your kicker. Do not forget, the Rams do not win the Super Bowl without Matt Gay. They don't. They do not get to the Bengals game without him. They don't beat the Bengals without him. They don't beat the Bucs without him. They don't beat the 49ers without him. Matt Gay was key and critical. In addition to that, to get to the 2018 Super Bowl against the New England Patriots, we talked about all the time. Greg Zuerlein, he is going to make a huge game. He's going to make a huge kick. That's all anybody thought. Oh, wow, he's got this crazy leg. It's going to be one of these days you're going to need it. 58-yarder, boom, drills it. They go to the Super Bowl. So, again, it might all come down, when you think about all these players and everything that goes on in between the 20s and inside the red zone and all these crazy athletes. But at the end of the day, more often than not in the postseason, it comes down to, in a lot of cases, the least athletic player having to make a play at the end to win the game. And that kick, the way Carty's been booting him, I feel pretty damn good about him right now. So we're going to see what ends up happening. But Alexis, I think there's a lot to feel good about when it comes to the Rams. There is a chance if they do get to the Super Bowl, they will have played the toughest. They will have the toughest road in the history of the league, having to play a 15-win team and 2 14-win teams. That's a possibility. But you can't take anything away from this team if they accomplish that. I can tell you that much.
Bring it on.
Hell
That's
yeah.
what I say. Bring it on. I feel really good about this team right now, too. I think all Rams fans should, going into this wild card matchup against the Vikings. You got to earn it. Nothing is given, but obviously feel confident, feel good about our chances. And we'll be back to talk about it on Friday night. We will be here kind of closer to the game. We'll have more updates and we'll be able to kind of break down a little bit more about what's going on before we head out of here. Matthew, thank you for the super chat.
He said my old ass. That just made me think.
There's a movie that came out recently called My Old Ass that Jake and I both really like and recommend. But Thank you so much, Matthew.
Thank you,
60 is still young.
Yeah.
How you feel in your heart.
I'm with you.
But,
I think that'll do it.
That'll do it. So, guys, as always, please like and subscribe. If you like what you hear, you can follow us on social media at Downtown Rams. You can follow me on Twitter at the Alexis Craft. You can follow Jake at JK Bogan. You can follow us both on Instagram. Same handle for Jake on Instagram. I think I'm just Alexis Craft on Instagram, though. So pretty easy to find. And like I said earlier, we'll be back Friday night. We'll have a big preview episode for this wild card matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. We're very excited for it. Guys, have a safe week. Hope everybody has a good week. Hopefully it flies by so we can get to this matchup. But guys, as always, stay safe, take care, and go Rams.